of, shaping these institutions, or at least saying, okay, let's go ahead and create these institutions, are the same ones who actually destroyed them, for a lack of a better word. But I am convinced that if we as South Africans, particularly if the ordinary South African were to really appreciate how important these institutions are, it would be possible for us to, to reclaim those institutions. The one thing that we need more and more in South Africa is that though our forebears were at the forefront of leading us into a democracy, what is required more and more now is for the ordinary South African to be part of how we shape the democracy itself, not simply by being by resorting to some of the ways that we've had before, and most of those ways were simply going for e-protests and things like those. But we need to be part of the design, the actual design of the country. What exactly are we doing? What do we want? How do we design our institutions? But not only that, I think a very, very crucial part of all of that is that after you design a structure or you design an institution, you have then to deal with the quality of the people. So we're going back to the issue of quality. Because you can design good institutions and all of that, but if the quality, you have not been able to design and produce the right quality of citizens or the right quality of leaders, you still have people who are going to spend a lot of time and energy trying to find loopholes within those institutions, which is precisely what we have gone through. You have got the institutions, they are well regarded even worldwide, but you have got a caliber of people who have intentions to defeat everything that is within those institutions. And they are so intent that they can organize around the institution. So you're not talking about one person or the other trying to defeat an institution. You are talking about an entire grouping of people trying to defeat institutions which they built up. Now add to that the worst part of it. Have a president be the spearhead in all of that movement. This is not a small matter. So the ascendance of Jacob Zuma was really not a small matter. It was a devastating thing that happened. Because not only you have a group of people who are trying to defeat our institutions, but they are headed by the very head of the state. Now that is just devastating.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know, Spokie, if you got a question. But...
Yeah, I just want to, we have these groups of people that are not of quality of leaders that we're supposed to be having in the different institutions and, also in parliament. How do you think we can, or how can the government start by getting rid of those people? Because at some point they will have to be out of the system, but how do you think that can be done in essence?
Well, Spokie, one of the proven ways of dealing with a degeneration like this is for the government of the day first to realize that not only they as a government, but the country is in real trouble. And so the effort to actually deal with that should be very, very clear. And if it is very clear, it means dealing with the most powerful first, and then cascading down to the less powerful. So if you're dealing with the corruption or you're trying to renew any system or any organization, you cannot hope to start at the bottom and go up, because once you're working at the bottom, the guys at the top who are really the most powerful are finding ways to deal with you. So the only way to deal with what we're talking about is a very, very intentional way of saying to the nation, guys, now the time for play is gone. We are in a crisis. And because we're in a crisis, we are going to see to it that we remove the people that need to be removed. We are going to give it everything that we have. Now, it's up to you whether you would say, when I spoke, okay, because I know these guys have got political clout, they might cause trouble in this, and you decide to say, okay, let's find a way to make sure that these guys are not completely thrown out into the cold. I'm just making an example here, not necessarily proposing that. Some countries have dealt with this in that way to say, okay, these guys are too powerful. They can damage us one way or the other, and if we don't, we can't throw them in jail straight away. Then we need to find another arrangement for them. But that arrangement must make sure that they have absolutely nothing to do with government. They are not even a mile close to government. You see. So what I'm saying is in two parts. One, you need a strategy that is brutal.
Yeah.
You need to deal with your brothers and your sisters brutally. But tell them before you do so and say, look, we are in a crisis here. We're not going to play. Number two, give them a way out if it is possible. Unless we're dealing with simply criminality that cannot, where you can make arrangements. But where you can make arrangements, you can do that with making sure that they have nothing to do with government. They're not even close to government. They will never tender in government. They will never influence anything that has to do with government.
Wow.
Yeah. You have to see that day.
That's quite a very, very tough stance, but a necessary one, because if we look another area, that has sort of become very much responsible for this type of thing that you're talking about, Bantu, is the tendering system.
Yeah.
That everyone now is crying about in terms of how, even though the intentions for it was to actually give every South African an opportunity, to be able to do business with government wherever they can. But we've seen how that system has been manipulated and how it has been turned on its head. We had a fronting a while back where, white companies, today, there are many white companies that are using African names, and some of those African, companies are actually fronting. They've got black CEOs or owners who actually
in the forefront,
who are actually not benefiting at all. Some of them they are benefiting because they know the arrangement and so forth. Are we far gone? I know you said that we still have to be hoping, but the part of the reversals that we have to engage ourselves in, and the sort of renewal that was spoken about, are going to take us for quite some time. In our 30 years, we probably have messed up about, and to correct that, that's going to take some time.
Yeah, I agree, Les, that it is going to take some time. But I also believe one of the most powerful things that we have as human beings is when we have consensus on anything. When human beings gather together in one mind and one heart with one purpose, they can do amazing things. This has been shown throughout history, that it's only when people are able to get together and believe in the same thing and push for the same agenda. Once again, unfortunately, we don't yet have a leader who really, really understands that. The leaders that we have are the type of leaders which we are referring to as low quality, because all they will think about is going to think about their political party and their political party retaining power. We don't yet have the statesman who is going to rise up and say, guys, this is not our political party. This is not about our political parties. This is about South Africa and making sure that South Africa fulfills its destiny. Now, when you see someone like that, you don't have any doubts. You know immediately. The minute they stand up, you know immediately, but this is the guy we've been looking for. Unfortunately, we don't have that guy, because that guy, when that guy stands up, the type of thing that they will be able to do is to bring people together, regardless of where they come from, in terms of their ideology, regardless of which political party they believe in. Is the person who is going to reignite the dream of South Africa and make every South African believe in the dream of South Africa. And so even the way they speak and the items that they are going to bring up when they speak, you will find none of the divisive stuff, which is the mainstay of politicians today. Now, even if you look now at the campaigning, how people are campaigning, they are campaigning in such a way that all the campaigns are dividing people. Literally, look at the campaigns. There are very, very few politicians who are not dividing people. you know.
Yeah.
But most of them have gotten used to the idea of canvassing by dividing us. One is canvassing around their tribe. Well, we are this tribe. One is canvassing around the skin color. One is canvassing. I mean, all of those things are ways to divide us. One is canvassing about the wealth and the poor and all of that. But we need someone who is going to bring all of us together, because when that happens, when human beings gather together in one mind and one heart, they are able to do things in a very, very short space of time. So basically, what I'm saying is that is what we need if we're going to turn things around. If we're going to try to turn things around with this culture, the political culture that is existing now, indeed, it's going to take us decades. It's going to take us a very, very long time. And in that long time, we might find that we are going to walk in two directions. We're going to take 2 steps forward and perhaps take 3 steps back, and then try again and take 1 step forward and take 2 steps back. Why? Because we don't have someone who's going to bring us together. I mean, Lester, the essence of a nation is when people are able to give up their small identities to take up the greater identity and say, well, who am I? I am a South African. Primarily, I'm a South African. So the first thing I say when I talk about myself is to say I'm a South African. As long as I call out something else, I say, well, I'm this political party, or well, I'm Xhosa, or I'm Zulu, or I'm this or that. It means the idea of nationhood has not found root in us. And that has been the fall, or rather the fault, if I may put it like that, or the failing of our leaders ever since 1994.
I mean, the thing that you're saying, Spokie, what did you say?
No, I was gonna say, it does. I hear what Uband is saying, but is South Africa ready for that? Our leaders willing to stand up and and stand on the ground and have a backbone and say, I am bringing you together. This is the common vision that we have as South Africans. This is the type of economy, for example, that we want. Because do we really have someone out there that can do that can be backed by the whole of South Africa? Because I think in South Africa, we're so used to political parties. And for example, let's say it's an independent candidate that will say those words that we are all wanting to say, or we have been waiting to hear from, a certain leader. Do we really have those people and that particular person? And would that person have a backing? If they are not in a political party, because we are living in a country whereby everything is backed by a political party. It's it's a well-known recipe. We don't want to try new things, we don't want to try independent candidates, for example, because people have a way of not wanting to back what is true to a certain extent.
Yeah, I hear you, Spokie. I hear you. But my hope, you know what my hope is, Spokie? I'm hoping that we have people in the younger generation who we have not yet identified. My hope is not in the guys that we can see right now. I know we've got some new political parties and guys who are promising perhaps something is going to happen there, but my real hope is amongst the younger generation. People who have not been schooled in this old liberation ideology, who have absolutely nothing to do with liberation ideology. All they think about is performance. All they think about is economic growth. All they think about is opportunities for young people and for everyone. All they think about is the ability to identify the potential of South Africa and see that South Africa is a powerhouse. I mean, there's no running away from that. But that potential is being wasted. It's those guys that I'm waiting for and I'm hoping for. So that's why continuing to talk about these things, there is someone who is listening, and I think amongst the younger people, those are the people who are going to surprise us. Then the other thing about today's world, the beauty of today's world is one day someone is not known in today's world. You and I know that, Spokie. In today's world, yesterday somebody was not known, but they come up with the right message at the right time and they make the right connections. And 3 months down the line, you've got an explosion of support. So my prayers and my hopes are there. Someone might say, Bantu, you are too, you are too optimistic. But perhaps that's just the nature of people who want things to happen. So like I'm saying, if I'm answering you in a short question, I don't think our eyes should be at the guys who we already know now. Our eyes should be elsewhere. So that's why we
Yeah.
need to keep the conversation going, because these conversations are not useless. They are working elsewhere. There are people who are listening to them, and those young people who are going to catch this fire, these are the people who are going to lead us out of this quagmire. And the beauty of something being caught by them is that when they come up, they don't even have to dismantle the political culture that was there. They simply supersede it with the wave of support that they usually get. So we have seen these dynamics these days where a wave comes in and it just sweeps everything out of the way. So today we know this political culture which is there, and it seems like this will be there forever. But I'm almost on the verge, when Alistair, of promising you, but I'm gonna promise you something I don't know. But I'm on the verge of promising you. But the only way for this thing is going to be swept up by another movement. But that
Yeah.
movement is a movement that is not gonna waste time trying to dismantle anyone. It's simply gonna make the last system obsolete.
Yeah. I mean, the you know the I like the hope and enthusiasm that you have. I mean, it's something that all of us should have for our country. But one of the things that I wanted to kind of ask is, you know, we've seen the mushrooming of political parties, which is something that many of us, I mean, are kind of not happy about, and rightfully so. What you're saying is that the status quo at the moment, you know, it kind of, everyone is reading from the same hymn book in terms of how to sort of campaign. They campaign in a manner that is scripted according to the manner in which they think they are going to win, because they have to represent a certain sort of you know, grouping in our country, as it were. I mean, you have the likes of DA that was complaining. I don't know if you heard the other day. DA was complaining, Steenhuisen is complaining about the Good Party and other parties that are campaigning in the Western Cape, because I mean, his impression is that the Eastern Cape is well run, therefore they shouldn't be disturbed there, and so forth. You know, and so we know the ANC, I mean, their usual sort of, they are clinging on the record now, particularly on the 30 years, you know, so that, and indeed, I mean, there's a lot of good things that they have done. No one can deny that. But also, I mean, there's quite a lot of bad that has happened, which has set us back, you know, quite a number of years in terms of the corruption. And one of they even themselves call 9 wasted years, you know, it's one of those. And we know how deep, I mean, if you are living in this country during between 94 and 2007, you definitely have a picture of what it was like then, in terms of the economy itself, the vibrancy, and sort of a whole lot of we were living in a country that was really sort of close to the picture that you were saying, that we were all engineered to move forward as a country and so forth. And then came the mighty divisive, you know who, and who is part of, you know, the MK party as well. So, and that took us, you know, on another completely different turn, you know. So it's the environment at the moment, and everyone has been, I mean, we've had some political parties and some people saying 2024 elections is the 1994 type of elections, because people they are promising change, you know, they want the leading party to be out of place and so forth, in order to give you know, new guys who are promising us heaven and earth, you know. So the how, I hear your hope around the new generation, but the question is, How do we engineer that in our own small places, to get us into a space where we can find that type of fire of vibrant leaders? Because we also know that the current sort of environment and the current leaders, even in the youth structures, they are carbon copy of what is happening in the old leaders, because people get promised and they see how these things are operating, these young ones, and so they kind of copy what is happening. How do we get that out of the way, in order for us to actually get the I would say the untempered with, the type of leaders who are not contaminated in any way?
Yeah, it's not an easy task, Lester. It's really not an easy task. But perhaps my hope is that the more we have these conversations about where we are going as a nation. So let's make an example. Some of the people in the media, like you and Spokie and Kith Radio, you are in such a good position in terms of creating awareness.
Yeah.
And that awareness needs to be driven deliberately, in the sense that when I'm saying deliberately, if you say you're talking more about nation building rather than simply politics, because ANC has been so powerful that it has influenced our entire country. I'm happy about your analysis when you say most of these parties are carbon copies of ANC. Even the DA has become a carbon copy of ANC. Even some of the mistakes that they make, like silly mistakes of hoping that the Western Cape is their domain of some sort.
Yeah.
It's the same, it's the same kind of political language that is found in the ANC. And so they have become a copy of the ANC, which tries to project themselves as different from the ANC somehow. So one of the ways is to work in terms of creating awareness. Creating more awareness, because there's no other way. Literally, we don't have any other way. The more we create awareness by talking about these things and talking about nationhood, but talking about why it is important for us to be a nation, the more we are going to gain traction. We are going to find the right place for people to rally around the cry of nationhood. Because we will look at other possibilities and everything else that we have tried, and we see all the things that we've tried have not worked. And unfortunately, those people who shout the most, but still presenting the same type of language as the ANC, they are not going to get a result which is different from the ANC. They are going to get the very, very same result, perhaps a little bit worse than the ANC. So what we need to do is to change around. And that change around means we need to concentrate on building a nation rather than anything else. Concentrate on our nationhood. Now, if we concentrate on our nationhood, initially you are going to struggle with that because people have pressing problems. So when you're talking about nationhood, it seems like a far-fetched thing which has nothing to do with the fact that they are walking on sewage on the streets, they don't have water, they don't have jobs, companies are closing left, right, and center, electricity is on and off. It seems like these things are far-fetched from nationhood. And yet, the only thing that allows us to tackle any difficult thing is when we work together. I like the concept of Ilima. Both of you will remember the concept of Ilima, which used to be an idea that was used by our people, especially Wilkana. But I think all African society used that thing. Ilima meant Indoba, all of you are going out to help one of your neighbors so that you have one task, but all of you are doing that task at the same time. Why? Because it helps you to do it quickly. It's either you're building a house or you are going out into the field, either to plant a field or to harvest, and you call Ilim. And that thing is done in record time. Why? Because you are not the only one who's doing it. You have come together and you're doing that. So now we are facing this difficult task. What is the difficult task that we're working on? Is that we are a nation which is hardly a nation. We are a nation which is a disparate grouping of different people who are competing with their interests and to see who is more powerful than who is going to gain the most. And that thing is dissipating our strength. And so it doesn't solve any one of our problems. Even for the guys who say, we have won, we are the ones who have won. It doesn't solve their problems anyways. And so what we need to talk about and continue to talk about, even just in terms of the political culture that we're dealing with, is that the political culture itself has to change. We need to lean more towards talking about the nationhood. We are a nation. What do we want to achieve as a nation, not as different political parties. I know from the media side, part of the problem with that is that talking about political parties is interesting. You know, when we talk about this drama, political parties, this one did this, and the scandals and everything, it is really newsworthy material. But unfortunately, though it is newsworthy material, exactly, sells papers, it gets people hooked to listen, but it really doesn't build anything. It will not build this nation. So you need more people to say, look, we've been enjoying ourselves with this drama, you know, entertaining ourselves as if we're watching a soap. But now the time to play is gone. This is not a soap. These are people's lives.
You know, I think, I mean, I couldn't agree with you more in terms of the picture that you're painting, and you know, the type of sort of campaigns that we need to be hearing now in terms of people moving out of this cocoon of party divisive sort of you know, because all of that has got the party in mind, that you have to be able to present a picture of what you stand for as a party and not necessarily as South Africans. But I mean, I just want, I mean, the time is 5:43 now. We're quickly running out of time. I want to ask you, 1994 wawuphi wena?
Hey, 1994, I'm a young man. I'm around somewhere about 22, somewhere about. So I was already a young man. I mean, fully.
Yeah.
I'm a rather disillusioned young man at that time. Probably because of what I'd seen in the past. And even the transition period was a moment, or I had a moment of disillusion even about that, to say, hey, I'm not sure even if this thing is real, or we are being cheated of our, you know, our rights as South Africans and things like those. So there was a lot of misgivings at that time. But one of the things that we are victims of, Lester and Spokie, is that though all of this is happening, one of the things that was happening also at that time is the transition between traditional society and modern society. Very few people point to this and how confusing it has been, especially for young people who have watched this transition, who know what was taught by our parents. But as soon as you join the urban jungle, some of the things that were taught by our parents directly, when you get into the urban jungle, there's something completely different from that. So there was a lot of dynamics at that point in time. It was not just the freedom that we are gaining freedom, but we are gaining freedom at a time when there was so much conflict in terms of where are we, who we are. Some of us, we were still trying to understand who exactly are we. We know who we are, but we don't know who we are. We're transitioning from a traditional society, and we're moving towards a democracy. We don't know much about this democracy. We don't know what to expect. There are people ahead of us who are saying, like, this is what you can expect. But these same people were not here for some time. They are coming from exile, some of them. Some are coming from jail. And so we're looking at these people. These people have not been the people right here next to us all of these years. And so our experiences were far and wide. For instance, I was coming from the Transkei. And so there is an experience which is unique to the Transkei. I know there are people who have been coming from other Bantu states, some who have been coming from East South Africa, and they too have unique ideas and unique experiences. So we've never had a time when we compare our unique experiences to say, look, we need to formulate and look at what the African experience is out of all of these experiences. What exactly are we trying to get to? Because even amongst ourselves, even amongst Africans, there would be different ways of looking. People who are coming from the townships, for instance, they had a different experience than people who were coming from the Bantu states. And sometimes there would be competition between these two sides, even just in terms of understanding our political experiences. And so, what I would say about 1994 was a time of great change and great anxiety and being unsure of what exactly is going on. So that's I mean, the euphoria of the fact that we're getting free was there. But
Yeah.
if you think about the fact that I'm coming from a more Pan-African background, so even my view of the you sometimes, let's say, you'll remember the competition between the PSA and the ANC even before
Yeah.
liberation.
Yeah.
So there was already a lot of different views at that time. And so all of those fed into the experience, my personal experience of 1994. But I know we're getting here, but there are still misgivings. We're not sure even if we're being sold out here or what is going on. We're not clear.
Yeah. Yeah. And I think, I mean, I can remember clearly one of the most sort of prominent discussions, of course, that would precede 94 was the armed struggle, and which, of course, I mean, was very prominent in 1993 when Chris Hani was killed,
Yes.
where a lot of people actually had wanted to say, look, let's go to war and all of that jazz, that part really is leading. And also, I mean, we know about the tribalist wars also with the Zulus and the Xhosas, and so some people really in the broader aspect of the country, there were some areas where disillusionment was really a thing that was tangible, and I think, I mean, if people, I mean, know very much about the Transkei and Ciskei, I mean, we were kind of in the same province, but our understanding, and also that stems from leadership as well, again, because, I mean, Bantu Olomisa was much more of a comrade already at that time, than where in the Ciskei we had the likes of Abosebe and Okozo, who were known as puppets of the regime, of the time. So obviously, the Ciskei area was much more subdued in terms of the understanding of politics in some areas. But also, I mean, there were areas where people were actually very vibrant. And I mean, I know even, where I grew up as well, there was also a prevalence of Inkatha at the time, which just showed you how easy it was to infiltrate, I mean, the Ciskei government. Whereas in Transkei, you may not have had that type of what you call experiences. So I agree with you that there are people who actually fell through the cracks in terms of what was happening, and hence, I mean, the sort of Israeli mentality in some of the people most of the time, that mentality that says it was better in Egypt than in because you have people in our day who actually, even after 30 years, who still think and believe that it was better in the old government. So I mean, I think then some of the things that have happened, the events don't help with that type of mentality. But I think, I mean, in closing, as we come to a close, Bandu, I heard what you pray for and what you wish for, and what sort of galvanization that needs to happen. I mean, even with our radio stations, kind of prepare a new type of what I knew call. And also, I mean, Joel Nachitenze used to, when he wrote, I think it was early 2000, where he said ANC needs a new type of cadre, There's a new type of South African that kind of needs to rise to the occasion. Not only us as civil, civilians and the people of the country, but also in the political sphere, there needs to be a new type of South African that needs to rise to the occasion to get us back on track into the vision that South Africa should be, and what maybe our forebears envisaged, not the quagmire that we are in at the moment. So therefore, I would like to give you an opportunity to make a call to all the people who are listening to us now, and sort of what type of things that they need to be making in order for us to bring to reality that type of South Africa.
Thank you, Spokie and Lester. I think if you look at exactly what I've just said about the different experiences that South Africans have had, even in 1994, what becomes clear is what we are talking about now, that we needed nation building back then as much as we need it now. And we need that nation building in, in shaping the way we understand our own experiences, so that we can, as much as possible, though I know we're a diverse nation, but as much as possible, we come from the same place. There's no question about the fact that apartheid was an abhorrent system, and we're all the better for it. There's no question about the fact that the designs, most of the designs that we've done afterwards, like these Chapter 9 institutions, the democratic institutions and things like those, some of those things are in just the right place, except for one thing, that we haven't had the quality of people to actually drive those institutions. And what that speaks to also is the fact that we have taken morality out of the need within leaders. Our leaders are amoral. They seem to be completely immoral. So whether it's right or wrong, it doesn't matter as long as it serves the political purpose. Now we need to go back, because our people, if you're talking about our people, the African people, we are a moral people. We've always been a moral people. And so we need to rediscover that morality, because morality is not something that you can enforce by the police force or the army. It's something that comes within someone. And so if they say, look, I'm going to do this, that's what they're going to do, because they are a moral agent on their own. So when we talk about this new way of politics, we need to also feature those things, and also talk to our parents when they are raising our kids that, hey, we cannot raise an amoral society. We have already seen the effects of an amoral society. We have to go back to raising a moral society, because otherwise there is no pool of leadership which we can rely on if we as parents are raising a moral society. Schools need to be in the same boat to teach moral students. At tertiary, I know tertiaries, that's why they would laugh at you and say, oh, what are you talking about? Whose morality are you talking about? But at the end of the day, we cannot afford to, to produce amoral people, because we have seen the effects of it. Now we can even call on the students themselves to say, look, go and do a research, come up with a paper which shows us that a nation can be amoral and do well. Because in the past, we have not seen that. There is no study that shows us that amoral people are able to actually build something of value. So what I'm saying to you South Africans is, guys, let's go back to understanding what it is that our people knew. And that is unity builds people, number one. Number two, being moral agents means each and every one of us takes a responsibility. None of us says, I andingo Yesu, ayizulungiswa ndim. But we all are into it to say, well, I'm here. If it's happening in front of me, I'm going to do something about it. Until we become that type of a people, then we are really, really in a big spot. We are in big trouble, if I may put it like that.
No. I mean, we hear you, and thank you so much, Bantu, for today. I mean, we really hope, and I think, I mean, this is also, as much as it is an individual responsibility to make sure where they are and where they are, their area of influence, they actually, perpetuate this type of attitude that gets us to a much better South Africa. So thank you so much for coming through, and ubulise apha ekhaya, and have a beautiful evening.
Yes, sir. Thank you, Bantu, for availing yourself, and yes, have a good evening.
Oh, thank you, Spokie and Lester. Sorry, guys, for the veto. Yes, but I had my tie on today. I was hoping by, hey, no, I'm going to show off my tie.
No,
Yeah,
next time,
too much.
definitely. I think, yeah,
Mm.
no, we also,
Next
I mean,
time,
yeah,
ungabi nguTaiwan.
yeah.
Okay.
No, definitely. I mean,
Mm.
we should have more of these conversations, and
Yes.
particularly, I mean, with the elections also around the corner,
Mm.
I would like for us to, we are starting the month of the elections, basically the next month. So
Mm.
I'd like for us to maybe have conversations from time to time. There's quite a lot that's happening, and especially when Ekta is here in the studio as well. So I'll try and arrange that, and so we can hear both, those voices as far as the current sort of trajectory of our country is concerned. So Buli Sakaya, and have a beautiful evening.
Okay, thank you, guys. You too.
Okay,
Thank you.
thanks. To all those who are listening, guys, we just listened to Bantum Nikki, who was talking to us about the 30 years of democracy.
Yes.
We did try and look back, and also I think the other thing that was important is sort of the way forward,
Yes.
that he's presenting, and how the current sort of environment and conjecture in our country is really terrible for our nation, and we need to find a way of making sure that our nation gets back on track and find its footing. And part of the things that we need to be doing, a responsible citizen of this country, is to really try and drive a narrative that seeks to better us as South Africans,
Yes.
not as political parties. And everyone is fighting for our votes, but we are South Africans. So we need people who know that that's our value, that
Yes.
we when we vote for them, we are not voting for them purely to then at the end of the day come back and say it's the interest of the parties that actually come first. So it's something that we need to look forward to as far as these
Yes.
elections are concerned. Time is 5:58. Spokie, Amazoko Valelis.
Thank you to our listeners. Thank you for enjoying our show. Have a great evening and a blessed week ahead.
Guys, have a nice evening and beautiful week ahead, and stay real, stay lovely, and stay beautiful. So we'll see you guys again next week. Bye bye. Born to Lead is next. So those who are watching and listening to us, don't go away. Born to Lead is next, but we'll leave you with a song before Tata Figure Up. I will play a song.